Today is July 9th, 2019. My name is Jason Higgins. I'm a Ph.D. candidate in American History at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. Joining me for an interview is Jack O'Connor. He is the Veteran Mentor Coordinator.
Right.
For the Buffalo Veteran Treatment Corps.
Right.
This interview is part of the Incarcerated Veterans Project. Mr. O'Connor, I want to thank you for your willingness to participate in the project and for setting all of this up.
Sure.
Yeah. Before I get started, can I have your permission to record the interview?
Yes.
Great. And for some brief background information, when and where were you born?
I was born in Buffalo in 1947.
And which branch of the military did you serve?
I was in the Army. I served for 2 years, 1968 to 1970. In Vietnam, I served with the 82nd Airborne, the Quarter Cav, and the 25th Infantry.
Were you drafted?
I was drafted. Volunteered for the draft.
Sure. So you got your notice and then you volunteered?
Yep. I was actually married and had a kid when I went to Vietnam.
Wow. So you were 21 then?
Yeah, I was 21 out of college.
So you went to college?
Yes.
Did you serve in a combat zone?
Yes. I served in Vietnam. Again, I was a rifleman in the infantry for the whole time I was there.
What was your highest rank?
E5.
E5. Any medals you care to mention?
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, I didn't like talk about anything. The ones I'm most proud of, I got the Bronze Star, and I have the Combat Infantry Badge. That's the only two that are worth mentioning.
Wow. What was the status of your discharge?
Honorable.
Honorable. And have you ever been diagnosed with PTSD?
Yes, I have a 90% disability rating.
Okay. Combat related, I imagine?
Yeah, partly PTSD, a lot of Agent Orange cancers in the stomach and leg areas, and nerve and muscle damage because of Agent Orange.
Do you have access to counseling services if you require it?
Oh yes, I think the VA, I'm on the advisory board at the VA hospital. I love the hospital. I use them even though I have private insurance. I consider they put everything together in one package. They know where I served. They diagnosed my prostate cancer because of where I served, even before PSA levels were at the right mark. So I really trust the VA hospital.
I always ask because I want to make sure that my interviews don't elicit trauma.
Oh, no, not at all. No.
Have you ever been incarcerated?
No. Been arrested a few times when I got out of Vietnam for fighting, but I never spent a day in jail.
So let's take a step back. Can you tell me about your parents? Who were they? What did they do?
Yeah, my parents were Irish immigrants. They came over in the 40s from Ireland. They were farmers, poor farmers. They came through Ellis Island, which happened to still be open then if you had any physical difficulties. I found their names there on one of the boats. My father then went in World War II. He served in the Army. Never said a word. He was in World War II about anything that happened there. Now that I understand PTSD, I feel sorry for those men and women in World War II in Korea that definitely had PTSD and will never be compensated for it.
Was he in Europe?
He was in Europe, and that's about it. He became a foreman at the gas company, and we had a nice life in Buffalo.
Sounds like a working class.
Oh, definitely, yeah. We started in the projects, which we didn't think was poor then, no car or anything, but a lot of military. The projects were built for the World War II military. And we eventually got out of there, and he built his own home. So we had a nice life. They both died in their 80s.
Did he take advantage of the GI Bill?
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't think he was aware of anything.
Like many.
Yep.
So you were born in 47, 2 years after the war. Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, a younger brother, 1 year. He went in the Navy, and he's doing well now. He's retired. Doing fine.
And where did you grow up?
Grew up in in Buffalo, Langfield Projects, and then he built his own home, Cortlandt Avenue and Turner High School, Canisius College, yeah, all in the Buffalo area.
What did kids do for fun where you grew up?
Oh, just, we weren't poor, but we played sports where it didn't cost money. There was no hockey. You played baseball because you had a glove. You played basketball because you had a basketball, and that was it. And you had a bicycle, so get where you need to go on your bicycle. And I delivered papers. I laughed because I had a big courier wagon. Courier Express, you had these big wagons to deliver the paper. And I used to use that wagon to help my mother do groceries.
That was your first job?
That was my first job, and I didn't get paid for it. I was always pissed. But my mother loved it. She was my helper when I became a paper boy. I paid her $5 to pull 2 wagons. I had a huge paper route.
Did you have a bicycle too?
Oh yeah, me and my brother had bikes, and boy, you guarded them with your life. That was it. That was your means of transportation.
At what point did you own your first car?
My father, when I turned 16, he bought it for me with the condition that I teach him how to drive, which I did. So he paid for the car. It was a 57 Chev.
Wow.
Great car.
It was a great first car.
And I had an awful time teaching him. I was a stubborn old Irishman. It was worth the car, though. He bought his own car then. I had mine.
Did you work in high school as well?
Yes, I worked for the gas company where he was a foreman every year. It was called, you dig the ditches then, but they didn't have the machinery they had now. So when you dug a ditch, you really dug a ditch. That was probably the reason I went to college. I said, I'm not going to do this. In the summer, I was a garbage man with the city of Buffalo. And great jobs, you went from one to the other, but you knew, even when you were a strong young man, that this wasn't going to work. Right. So I did go to college because of that work experience.
Did your parents expect you to go to college?
No, they were so proud, the first Irish Catholic. In our house, very religious, but Christ wasn't on the top. The top was John Kennedy. He had the top picture there. And then the Virgin Mary, Christ was third. And I always got a kick out of that.
Do you recall whenever JFK was shot?
Oh, yeah. I was a junior in high school. Yeah. I remember when he was shot. It was 1963, I think. Yep, year before I graduated.
I imagine that really impacted your family.
Yeah, my mother especially. She went all the way to Ireland to see him once when he traveled there, because he was the first, in her words, first Irish-American Catholic president. Yep.
So in high school, did you ever get in any trouble with anything?
No, just the normal stuff, throwing eggs on Halloween. Nothing crazy. I was more afraid of my mother. My father's a big tough guy, but he never laid a hand on us. My mother, though, she's different. She'd pull my ears off. So if I got in trouble, I tried to make sure she wasn't home, and they'd bring you home then, the police. They didn't arrest you if you did something stupid. I'd beg them, wait till Dad gets home. I want to see Mom.
In hindsight, looking back, did you ever experience any trauma growing up?
Oh, none at all. I think I grew up with a great time in the 60s. I still listen to the 60s music. No, it was a time where you really made friends, and the lack of driving and cell phones, and that you became closer. I still know the kids I grew up in a project with. Some of them were judges and doctors, and we still keep in touch because we remember Langfield Drive, living with no cars and just a baseball mitt.
Right.
And now kids have everything, so they don't understand it. I had to bring my kids back to the projects. They didn't believe I lived in. The rooms were 8 by 8. Me and my brother lived in a room 8 by 8. It's fine with us. No air conditioning. One window. That was the way life was. But it didn't make any impact on them. They still want their air conditioning in their own room.
So you went to college. What did you major in? Where did you go?
Sociology, Canisius College in Buffalo. Is just, in fact, what I remember about that, and I think it's interesting for many vets, is I quit college in my senior year, and my mother went berserk, and she made me complete it before I joined the Army. Why that was interesting, in my last tour, when I was in Vietnam, it was called the Vietnamization stage. We were turning everything over to the Vietnamese, which was good for me. The Vietnamese did all the work. I was very lucky I went when I did. It was after Tet. But my last duty station was the quarter cabin went home. I had about 2 months left, and I went into the 25th by helicopter. They had a major battle going on. There was body bags coming back. And I go, this is it. I've avoided crap for 10 months, and now it's all going to hit. And I'll never forget it. The captain came out and said, "Is anyone here can type and has a college degree?" They needed someone in the rear. My hands flew up. And he said, "If you're lying to me, you're done." And I did. I had a college degree. My mother made me. So for the last 2 months, I had a very easy time in a place called Cu Chi for the 25th Infantry while the other poor guys were out in the field. So I think it happened for a reason. My mother made me do it.
Save your life, maybe.
Yeah. Funny. I tell that story to my grandkids just how important school is. You never know when it's going to come in handy.
Sure. So, when you graduated college and then you got your draft notice?
Yeah, I got my notice. I got married then. Before I went in, when I came out of our honeymoon, I went to boot camp 10 days later.
Where did you do your boot camp?
At Fort Dix.
New Jersey.
And then Fort Dix for AIT. And then I went to Fort Benning for sergeant school, they called it, because I had a college degree. But stupid me didn't figure this thing out. It was the first half of Ranger training. And I kept saying to myself, there's no way that I'm going to go over there in infantry. I was infantry. They already told me I was infantry. How can you be an instant sergeant? You know, they're going to kill me. So I dropped out of sergeant school. And I found out later that not one of those guys went to the infantry. They all went to supply. So I wish I would have known that. But I needed that extra training because it was wintertime in Fort Dix, and a lot of our instructors were Vietnam guys. They didn't take us out. They stayed in the barracks. I was in terrible shape when I got out of AIT. I couldn't do 20 push-ups. You're supposed to be able to do 50. So I don't know how those guys survived in Nam. But when I went to Fort Benning, the first half of Ranger School, I was in shape. So when I went to Vietnam as a private, at least I was in good physical shape. So I think things all work out for the right reason. I do wish I would have finished that sergeant school. It would have been nice to work in the motor pool for a year. Or in supply.
So you had already had a college education, and whenever you got your draft, were you pretty sure you were going to Vietnam?
I wanted to. I probably could have got out of it when she got pregnant, but no, I volunteered for the draft, and for that they let me stay home for my daughter being born. So I actually went in the service, I told you, 10 days after I got married, but I went to Vietnam about 14 days after my daughter was born. So they let me stay home for that, which was an extra 3 or 4 weeks till the baby was born. Not for my wife. It was for both of us. But remember, she was still in the projects. We were both project kids, and she had to deal with working in a baby that had colic. And back in the 60s, they didn't have immediate cures for colic, so the baby just cried all day. Now the baby's 50. If she sees this, she'll kill me. I should tell her age. I got in the ward in Washington once. She told me not to tell her age. She was in the front row. And I didn't. All I said was, Kelly was 14 days old when I went to Vietnam. Well, everybody knew I went to Vietnam in '69, so you can just calculate it out. She was very upset. I laugh a lot to try to make that laugh.
How did you prepare mentally for going to Vietnam?
Oh, I didn't. I had no idea what was going on. I wouldn't have went for a second tour. I'll tell you that right away. I went to Canada. No way in the world I was going back. They're lucky they have young men that don't know what the hell they're doing, and they go. But nope, no second tour.
So even with a college degree, and this is a peak of the anti-war movement, were you aware of?
No, I knew I had to go because my father served. Canisius wasn't big anti-war. When I came back, University of Buffalo was.
Sure.
They had that huge, they were one of the first colleges to have a huge half-time anti-war parade. I had no problem with those protesters. What I never understood was why they hated us. And I actually found that out. My buddy was at CBS, and I asked him way up at CBS when I came home. I asked him to look at the footage that was showing the American people in 1969 and 70. And he took a quick look at her, and what he told me was over 70% of the footage was Americans killing Vietnamese. And in my opinion, the reason for that was we had these damn photographers with us. We had a Japanese guy, didn't speak English. He was only there during the day. It's very important to know, because at night is when all the crap happened, at least with us. So they didn't see the ambushes at night where, we were hurt. All they seen was what we retaliated the next day. So at least I understand now why the American people, and I'm glad they did it, ended the war. I have nothing against them.
Can you tell me about what it was like arriving? Where did you land?
When I arrived, I remember I made a very stupid comment on the plane. I thought it was the 4th of July. I said, "Look at those fireworks." And the sergeant said, "You asshole, those aren't fireworks, those are bullets. You're looking at a combat zone." I thought it was like the 4th. When did I go over? It was late June. No, I had no idea what to do. In the replacement depot, they were sending people all these different units. I didn't know them, but I lucked out going to the 82nd Airborne, which a year later would not have been a good place to go. After Tet, I found out years later that the military thought there was going to be a major attack on Saigon. So certain units of the 82nd and the Quarter Cav just were guarding the flanks of Saigon. That was good duty. It was. I didn't know then. We weren't going out looking for the bad guys. We were protecting that area of the city, which is, I shouldn't say easy duty, but I think it was compared to the mentors that you'll see in court this afternoon who have major Purple Hearts and Silver Stars. And so I lucked out. Even the Quarter Cav was around Saigon. 25th wasn't, but you heard the story on that. I was in the rear for those 2 months. So my tour there, looking back, I was very lucky, very fortunate that I didn't go over a year earlier, a couple of years earlier when the Tet Offensive hit. So I was blessed, I think.
So once you got there and did you join a unit that was already in the field?
Yeah, it was the 82nd. They just called your name and they put you on a truck and you went there. It was the 82nd. I spent about 7 months with them. Very proud of that time.
Anyone take you under their wing at the time?
No. And in the 82nd, if I remembered it right, the only rank was the people that were in the unit. Draftees didn't get any rank. 6 months, I think I just got E3 there, maybe E4. But my unit was mostly draftees under the sergeant level. And we had even guys from New York City that were criminals. In those days, you could, in the city at least, you had a choice going to jail or going to Vietnam. So I had several guys with me that had criminal records. I loved them. They were great soldiers. But it took care of each other, and I didn't keep track of them because I had 3 different units. But yeah, it was good service. I met good people from different backgrounds, black, white, a couple of Jewish kids. It was interesting. And they were all much younger than me. I was 21, going on 22. I was the old man, yeah. In fact, they thought I was a spy for a while because, there was a little bit of marijuana going on. And here's a 21-year-old college guy that's a private. I'd worry about me, too. So I had to convince them I wasn't. That could have been bad. But it was interesting. All good experiences with the people around me.
So you were stationed outside of Saigon most of that?
Yeah, for both 1st, 82nd, and the Quarter Cav. I was near Saigon, yeah.
What were your daily routines like? Did you go on any type of missions or anything? No,
most of the stuff was at night, going out on patrol, just protecting the unit and that part of Saigon. We didn't know that then. We just did what we were told. But we weren't really going out looking for the bad guys too far. We were going out defending the area we were supposed to defend, if that makes sense. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. And that was good duty. We weren't going out trying to get in a fight. We were going out trying to defend the unit. And the colonels and the people in the 82nd knew that. They knew they were going home in 5 or 6 months, so they didn't tell us. But I felt bad when they went home and I didn't go with them. I was really upset because I thought I was a member of the 82nd. But the draftees just went to another unit. They actually had an article published in the Buffalo News. I was so pissed off. But now I understand it. That's what a draftee is. I never set foot in Fort Bragg. I never jumped out of an airplane. I was pure infantry. So I missed when they went home. But the Quarter Cav was a great unit too. And they were a mechanized unit with tanks and armored personnel carriers. So it was a whole different thing. And there we were just guarding the same thing, guarding the unit, guarding that section.
What was most challenging about Vietnam for you?
Oh, my children, but my daughter and my wife, when you're young, I wasn't really that afraid to die. If it was going to happen, it's going to happen. I was very religious. But I missed them a lot. I can still remember a Christmas Eve. There was always firing going on the artillery bases, and sometimes we'd walk a lot. We'd stay at these artillery bases, all night long. They're shelling. But on Christmas Eve, I'll never forget, there was a truce, and it was real quiet. And that was a tough one. That's the day I remember. Because you think about your family and that. Nothing. It was pure peace and quiet till the next day, and then it all started again.
So you had time to reflect.
Yeah, that's all I did at night. I think that was the only time I cried in Vietnam was that night. And there was nothing going on. I wasn't going to die or anything. Just you kind of thought about stuff that you usually don't think about. That's why they draft young people. You can draft me now, bye-bye. I'm not going.
How did you communicate with your wife?
The funniest one was communicating with my mother by mail. But I tried to communicate. I never got into Saigon. My buddy was a lieutenant in Saigon. He just went to the USO and made phone calls. We never got in. I tried to communicate it on a tank. Well, my mother had to say over. My mother could speak very little English. She was right from Ireland. The brogue was so thick. And I kept telling her to say over. And she kept saying, over what? And never got through to her because it went through 3 or 4 different radio operators. Never worked out. I laughed by us. Where are you? What's over? Over what? I go, oh, God, this ain't going to work. But I remember sitting in the tank, and the tank guy was laughing. Now they got cell phones. We didn't have any cell phones.
Did you count the days down on your book?
Yeah, when it got to 30, yeah. And sometimes you get a little lax. I can remember a very stupid thing I did at Cu Chi, which was a funny base because it was a beautiful, protected base. But today we know that all the tunnels were built under Cu Chi. We didn't know that then. It wasn't safe at all. But I remember smoking a cigarette on guard duty, which is just stupid.
At night?
Stupid. And the sniper must have tried to figure which way my head was turned. But it missed me by about 6 inches, so I don't know. He must have thought I was this way. Whoa, that scared. I only had about 10 days left, and here I am smoking a cigarette.
Was that the closest to being shot that you...
There were a few times at the 82nd, but you just don't think about it. You just put your head down. Nothing major, though. I mean, some of the guys you see here today had major infantry fights. I didn't. We had an ARVN unit with us, God bless them. They did all the point stuff. That was normal. Obviously, when I come home and I found all the men that died walking point and that. So I was blessed being in the 82nd in this Vietnamization period where we actually work with ARVNs. We'd go have dinner with him, and ARVN lieutenant got married. I remember he brought me to his house, and I embarrassed his family, I guess, because I thought you're supposed to eat everything. You're not. When you're done, you're supposed to leave something on the plate. Well, geez, he kept feeding me this stuff, and then I got sick because they told me it was snake or something. I don't know. And I go, what are you talking about? So I guess I wrecked his wedding. Nice guy, too. I kind of missed him. Wonder what happened to all of them when we left, because they were probably all slaughtered. All the South Vietnamese forces.
Did you carry a sense of survivor's guilt?
Oh, God, yeah. I still have 2 friends that died there. And when I'm going to D.C. on Wednesday, we have our conference for Veterans Court. There's over 3,000 people coming. I'll see Tim Wynn there and Judge Dugan, who I really admire a lot. He went from infantry to being an officer and then a judge. Well, you interviewed him, quite a guy. And we both get a kick out of being the 82nd and knocking out Marines, who Tim is. If he listens to this, he'll get back at me. But what's the question again? When you get 70, you forget about it.
Well, you lost some friends. Right?
Oh, yeah, Tommy Marchese and Kirk Coleman. Yeah, those are the 2 that I have that I remember a lot. But only 2. Many have many more than 2.
Sure.
But, you wonder why you came back. And the older you get, it makes some sense, especially with watching this court. Not that I'm anything important at all at the court, but I think with my role as meeting Bill Feely, who was the head guy in Washington, and Judge Russell, I was able to get those 2 together. And I don't think I could have set up a mentor program without that Vietnam experience and my 30 years with social services. So I think there's, I thought when I retired, life was over. I think it just started when I retired. I don't remember anything I did as director of Medicaid. I sure remember the over 1,000 mentors I've talked to in the last 10 years and learning from them and trying to tell them what we can do and what we can't do. That's been a riot. I mean, I love it. Half of them are Vietnam vets, so I'm off to Indianapolis, about 3 weeks, and then Denver. I love meeting with these mentors. Again, most of them are Vietnam vets.
So you're able to reconnect.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I can remember Secretary Shinseki, he was a VA secretary. Great guy, did a lot for Vietnam vets. I can remember when he came to Buffalo, and every secretary has an aide from the White House with him. They usually know somebody, they're just young, father's a senator. And whenever I speak, I always thank everyone for their service. Sometimes I speak in front of large crowds. And then when they're done, I tell them to sit down. I ask all the Vietnam vets to stand up, and I tell everyone to say 2 words, welcome home. And this young kid said, you can't do that. You can't single out a group of, I was with Shinseki here. Mr. O'Connor, you can't single out a group of veterans. And I go, and Shinseki, who was a quiet guy, told him, shut up. He was a captain in the 25th Infantry, lost his leg. So the kid learned a lesson at that. The young guys know that we paved the way. We were treated like shit when we came home, yelling at us, throwing stuff at us. Are you kidding me?
Did that actually happen to you?
Yeah, a lot of yelling, and there was a big thing in Oakland. In Chicago, we didn't get off the plane, in fact. It was a huge riot. I ended up coming home on a mail flight with all the mail. And I remember in the airport, people just moving away from you. This shit. And then, there was crap, a bunch of fights. Just fights, though, nothing. Call you a baby killer, asshole. And you had to retaliate to that. That's why I think most of the mentors I see now, Vietnam vets, they love doing this because it's their chance to give back. I hear that all the time, all over the country. They couldn't give back in 1970 because nobody liked them. Now now they're 60, 70 years old. They run companies. They got money. I love the people. I have a bank here that gives me $5,000 a year. I didn't even ask for the money. I just got this check from a large bank we have a not-for-profit. So I called the secretary up and I said, why am I getting this? Is this a mistake? She goes, no, Mr. O'Connor, let me tell you one thing. We have a president and a board of directors. There's 10 of them. 9 of them are veterans, 7 Vietnam. I go, got it. They just sent me the check.
So there's a lot of solidarity being a Vietnam veteran.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, all these guys now run companies. We have a record, we call it veteran-friendly employers. And one owns a steel company, oil company, car dealerships. They're all Vietnam vets. And they trust this court now because they've seen our recidivism rate is far lower than that of prisons. Our recidivism rate is 10%. Might be a little higher, not over 12. And we've had 400 go through here. The recidivism rate in our state prison, 67%. So if I was an employer, why not take a veteran that might have got a little messed up on Oxycontin but straightened his butt out, and we have them, and we call it veteran-friendly employers. And I won't refer anyone there until they're clean at least 6 months. So they trust me and I trust them.
Sure.
But most of them are Vietnam vets. I get a kick out of that.
So you mentioned that you earned a Bronze Star in
Yeah.
Vietnam. Can you talk about that?
Oh, sure. It wasn't for heroism. If you see someone with a Bronze Star and it's got a V device, that means valor. Mine wasn't. I was a good soldier, especially in the 25th, and I got it in the Quarter Cav. I was infantry, but it was rainy season, so I would work in the rear. The lieutenant got sick. That was the pay lieutenant, so I did that for 2 months. I did anything they wanted to stay out of the field. Plus, the tanks didn't move too well in the rainy season. So I got more, being just a good soldier.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no heroism or anything involved. And I make sure I explain that whenever I'm talking at a school. They go, oh, you got the Bronze Star. I go, well, I did, and I'm proud of it. But if you see one that's got a V device under it, That's the big one.
So what was the major threat to you while you were in Vietnam? What was the big concern?
Well, you always thought you didn't know when you would die. I mean, you didn't know what was happening. You know, you're young, and I was a little older, but you went out on patrol. You didn't know if you'd come back. I can still remember guys that were atheists. That we had a chaplain there, but they'd always come to the service. And I remember my buddy said, "Just in case there's a God, I better come." I never forgot that one. Just in case, yeah. Yeah, you didn't know. You know, you did what you were told. Just the uncertainty of it. And again, I had no major conflicts. I mean, I never had shot.
But there were snipers and
Yeah, you never know when.
mortars.
Yeah, I carried a
rockets.
M79 grenade launcher. I used to pop that into the fields. But what I get a kick out of now, being a college student, I should have known that Agent Orange. I mean, we were glad of Agent Orange. You know, it burned these foliage down, but obviously, and they knew it, these bums, and I hope DOD's watching this, they knew that stuff was banned worldwide, not just in America. And there's so many guys my age now, and the guys right here in this court that have stomach cancers, leg neuropathies, feet neuropathies, all because of that. Unbelievable. Oh yeah, several, and a lot of nerve problems with my long name to it, but it attacks different muscles. I mean, I'm fine. I'm walking. I just can't run anymore. But it hits a muscle. It lasts about 4 months, and it goes away. But you can't rebuild the muscle because the nerves are dead. So the whole thing with it, how much muscle do you lose? I haven't lost much, 15, 20%. It's on its sixth muscle now over here. It just keeps moving around, but it's not bad. You wouldn't know it. I walk around, just no basketball anymore or anything. And they told me finally that I went to the Dent Institute, which is the big neurology institute in New York State. He said, it's definitely Agent Orange. That's what they're saying. Why it waits 30 to 50 years to hit, it's got me with it. And a lot of stomach cancers in that. I can remember General Shinseki telling us they couldn't figure why guys in the rear were getting throat cancer. The rear in Vietnam, in my opinion, because I was in the 25th in the rear, it was easy. I mean, you weren't being attacked. You had a bed, you had beer. I mean, it was nice coming from the infantry. But these guys are getting throat cancer. And I remember General Shinseki told me, I think it was General Shinseki, that they finally noticed that the barrels they used for Agent Orange were orange. And they would clean them out. And those were the barrels they put in the rear to supply water for the showers and brushing your teeth.
Wow.
You can't just clean out a barrel of Agent Orange. So they figured out that's how the men in the rear were getting the throat cancers and the stomach cancers. And now they're eligible. They're all eligible for benefits. But isn't that interesting? Somebody looked up and said, what are those orange barrels? Well, they used to be filled with Agent Orange. So I hope that's true. That's what I heard. So a lot of cancers out of Vietnam, especially in the lower sections, prostate and stomach and stuff like that.
So you said that if you had done 2 tours that you would have went to Canada.
I might have, yeah. I had a family. No,
Just...
I'd be too afraid to go back. Pure fear. No, I wasn't a tough guy. I don't know how I mean. I was a skinny kid with glasses. I'm surprised I got a combat infantry badge just doing 30 missions. But yeah, if I'd have known what I was going to go to, I don't know if I'd have went, to be honest with you.
Do you feel like your training prepared you for the realities of war?
I guess they did, but I don't know if we were listening. Well, we'll get through it. My father got through it, and other guys got through it. So I don't know how much you listen to. Yeah, they taught you how to, especially at Fort Benning. You learned everything. Fort Dixon, that could have been a little more, having Vietnamese instructors, guys coming back from Vietnam, being instructors in the winter is not a good thing. They're not going to go out. They're freezing. So I was glad, I think I told you earlier, that I went to Benning for that 5-6 month period where I could do a few push-ups. I was in physical shape to go there. It was hot.
So after you came home, or even while you were in Vietnam, Were you making plans for after the war? What were your
No,
plans?
no plans at all. Lucky my wife was, I don't know why she stayed with me 50 years, because I drank a lot when I came home. Not because I think I don't know why, but I just partied a lot. Ran a motorcycle through a fence about 100 miles an hour. I wasn't trying to kill myself. I was just a little nuts. I was in a body cast for a while, but I straightened out after she gave me the ultimatum, stop or bye-bye, And then I had 3 kids, so life got good. I was at social services for 38 years.
Did you find it difficult to readjust from the war?
No, my friends were, they were a little different. They didn't understand, but that was okay with me. I didn't talk about it anyhow. But there was not a lot of, hey, how you doing? Mostly people would avoid you. They would kind of yell at you, but me and the wife would notice people wouldn't sit kind of next to you if you wore your uniform.
Did you associate with being a Vietnam veteran?
No, I was kind of glad it was over, and I was starting to dislike the things I heard about the war. Now I really hate the war. I'm proud to be a soldier, but I hate the Vietnam War. It didn't accomplish crap. Lost 58,700 men. For what? And they flew us off. How did it end? They were picking us off the roof of the embassy? Is that a way to leave a war? And what did we accomplish there? Nothing. I didn't hate the Vietnamese people. We intruded on them.
Did you interact with civilians?
I did. Yeah, I have some pictures in an orphanage. 82nd was close to this orphanage. We used to go in there. We guarded it. Yeah, they were just. The orphanage was fine. I'm not saying that there was a lot of bad guys there with the Viet Cong and that, but the normal people. I remember one guy painted a picture for $1. I wasn't supposed to have an American dollar, but I did, of my daughter. But he painted it with a blue outfit on. I told him it can't be blue. She's a girl. I'll never forget this guy, no teeth, just laughing. I go, no, it's got to be pink. So he painted 2 pictures for $1. And I have both those pictures.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't think the people were bad. I didn't hate them. I did for a while when I lost friends, but we invaded them. I don't know. Maybe most vets don't think that way. I had no problem, but I really don't like what I'm seeing now with wars going on, these burn pits. I think DOD knows these pits are dangerous, and they're putting men, I know one guy lost a lung down, was training down in Austin, Texas, and a young Marine lost 1 lung, and the major thing was burn pits. What the hell were they breathing in? Probably all these chemicals. So I don't know. Again, I'm not ashamed of Vietnam, and I'm not proud of it. I'm just proud to be a soldier.
Sure.
But I wish they wouldn't have done that one. To me, that was a dumb war. Very, very dumb war.
How long did it take for you to feel comfortable talking about it?
Oh, it took me 25 years to go to the wall. Then I got smashed, and the D.C. Police took me back. I'm lucky I wore my Vietnam hat. Probably got arrested for loitering or something. I was sound asleep on the mall. Yeah, 25 years, I think. I didn't talk about it.
In the 90s, you went to the wall?
I went, 25 years after I got back. So I got back in 70, 80, 90, 95, right before I was working. Yeah,
so the wall had actually been up for a few years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the wall was up, yeah. I loved it. Some people didn't like it. I thought it was unbelievable. Just nice. So it took that long to get there. Never thought about how long. I didn't have any friends that were there, so it wasn't like. Even today, I don't talk to anyone that's not a vet. But if I go to a different town like Galveston, I meet a Vietnam vet. We just talk.
Sure.
I don't talk to anybody else. I don't talk to my wife like that. But if you know, like Tim Wynn, Tim's been there and done that. Love to talk to that young man, even though there's a big difference in our ages. We did about the same things. So I don't know if I'm answering your questions. Yeah, really, you can talk to, you'll see it this afternoon, these vets mock each other out. It's the Marines against the rest of us. It happens all the time. They're probably moving around the Army thing in there right now, but we can call jarheads and dopes, but if someone else does, hell breaks loose. We had an incident once, and I think it's a funny incident. I made the mistake, a young Marine, I sit in the audience now. I don't interact. I let the team leaders run the show. I talk to parents. I like to talk to the mothers and wives to see if they're telling the truth. Sometimes they're not, and the mother will tell me he's lying. So then I'll talk to him later. But this young Marine came up to me, and I was assigning cases then, and I assigned him to an Army Ranger, Jason Jaskula. He was a cop at the VA, tough kid. And the young Marine said to me, Mr. O'Connor, I don't want to talk to him. I'd rather talk to a Marine. And Jason, I missed this. Jason yelled out, the whole court heard it, don't worry, son, I'll talk real slow. I missed it. He was calling the Marine stupid, I guess. All hell broke loose in our court. All hell. The F word was flying. Pat Walsh, who you're going to interview tomorrow, was banging his stick. Here comes the Marines. The felons are mad. The people in the audience are pissed at Jason. He runs out. I'm standing there. Judge Russell goes, what's going on? I go, I didn't do anything. But true story. So we had to stop the stenographer. People were really mad. What, you call us stupid? But what we learned from that was camaraderie. The Marines, whether they were arrested or whether they were the mentor, stuck together. So that's what I caught. We laughed. It's a true story. Never assigned. Oh, I tried to pair Marines with Marines, infantry with infantry, and everybody else with everybody else. And that doesn't always work, but sometimes it does.
So tell me about how you became involved in starting the first veteran treatment.
Well, you'll hear Judge Russell later, but again, remember, I was in the audience. I was the Medicaid director, so I had to be in the drug court and the mental health court because they lose their jobs, they need Medicaid. In New York, we have a great Medicaid program, Cadillac of programs, pays for all treatment. So, of course, I'd be there. So I was there the day that, I think I told you the story earlier, where the Vietnam vet was in front of the judge, and it might have been, I think for a year, the judge will clarify later, he just mumbled and wasn't doing well in the court. And Judge Russell asked me and Hank, his court coordinator, Hank Porowski, who was a Vietnam Marine vet, to go out in the hallway and talk to him. All that man wanted was to get with other veterans. That's all he wanted, be around other veterans. And he came back in the court and stood at parade rest. We ended up getting him into the VA in these different group settings. That's the first. I was on the board of directors of the VA, so I was able to do that. The VA was not our best partner in drug court or mental health court. They were our worst partner. They never would answer anything. Now they're obviously our best partner. But think of that. The only reason I could get him in to help was I was on the advisory board of the VA. I told you I met Mr. Feely. So all that man wanted was that. So when he came back in the court, he was standing at parade rest and he said something to the effect of, Judge, I'm going to do better. Hank and the judge looked at each other like, what happened? That was the start, in my opinion, of Veterans Court. They knew something happened there. So the two of them went on for the next year and ended up starting Veterans Court, meetings with the VA. It took a year, and they asked me to set up the mentor program because of what happened in the hallway. So that's how it started. One incident that probably lasted about 20 minutes. Yeah. They polled the courts, and he had 20, I think he'll tell you, I thought there was like 20 vets in his drug court, his mental health court, and then a series of meetings with the VA, and who knew this was going to happen? He may object to this, but I don't think it was liked here. People thought it was a get-out-of-jail card for veterans. Judge Russell did not have it easy starting this court at all. It wasn't like applauded by the criminal justice system. You already had a drug court. You already had a mental health court. What do you need a veterans court for? Well, you need one because they have both. These people have mental health issues, drug issues, and the fact that the mentors, they tell us stuff they don't tell the judge, they don't tell their attorneys, because a Marine trusts another Marine. So that's why the mentor thing works in Veterans Court, really works. Sometimes I wish they didn't tell us everything they tell us. You know, we have to be careful with what we, because we don't tell on them, we're not probation officers. And I talk to everyone that comes into court, and I tell them exactly what a mentor can do. And if they're drunk, I'm not going to run to the judge. I'm going to sit down, though, and have a real chit-chat with them about, what are you doing? You're wasting my time here. But I'm not going to tell anyone they're smelling alcohol in their breath. Or if they missed a probation visit, that's not my job. But if they're going to hurt themselves or others, I go right
All
there.
right, sorry about the interruption.
Sure.
So, can you talk about lessons learned along the way in the mentor program?
Yes. The biggest thing, I think, when I started, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just friends. We had no contracts, no procedures. The lessons I learned, we have to have women. I told you the story earlier about that. I make sure anybody I train, I tell them to have women on board. If somebody wanted to talk to a lady right now and I didn't have a woman mentor in court, I'd get the stenographer.
And why is that important?
Because some women do not want to talk to men about sexual problems that they've had. They'll only talk to another woman. So I'll make sure that mistake never happens that I told you, the woman that admitted she was sexually assaulted after I was with her for 8 months. That didn't go over well. Second thing is, mentors should have try to have a certified veteran officer, they call them. They can take claims. About 80% of the people that come in here, especially the young men, they have claims to be made with the department. They're suffering from various illnesses and situations where they could get money. So to have a retired, like Pat Welsh, working for the county, he was a veteran, a certified veterans officer. He could take claims. I have 4 of them. So our agreement with the New York State Department of Veteran Affairs, we'll take the claim because we know how to do it, and we'll turn it over to them. That saves them a lot of trouble. Never let the vet fill it out because there's so many mistakes in it. It takes years to correct. I think our time's less than a year. So I have 4 of them. So if we get a new case and we find out that there's a claim involved, I'll make sure the mentor, I don't care if he's Air Force or whatever, he'll do the initial interview. The third lesson I learned is you got to watch, you got to have some kind of a procedure down. I would just sit guys down and say, you want to be a mentor? Fine. No, I don't do that anymore. We had a drill sergeant that came in about 3 weeks ago, and he said he wanted to be a mentor, and we would kick some ass together. That ain't going to happen here. We don't kick ass in here. This isn't drill, boot camp. Now I have an actual contract, 8 pages, that I give to every county I'm in. It tells them what you do and what you do not do. So I like that if a drill sergeant, I love drill sergeants, but if they're coming in to kick ass, they don't belong here. We get guys that are on suicide watch. We don't need to kick their ass. I let them read the procedure, and usually halfway through they'll go, this is crap, and they'll leave. That made my day. I don't need to get into this. You're not laying hands on them. You're not going to yell at them. You're not going to get confrontative. So the lesson I learned, have something in writing, a contract between me and you. You sign it, I sign it. There's a confidentiality statement. You will not talk about your interviews with your buddies, with anyone. Just don't. We used to. And that caused us trouble when a mentee heard that his story, another guy heard his story. So confidentiality is real big with me. Also try to get young folks from the universities. Can't be all Vietnam vets. We're half Vietnam vets. It's so hard to get younger mentors, but I go to UB every month. They have a veterans organization that meets there, and I try to recruit young ones. Even if they can't come every 3rd week, come once every 2 months. I don't care. Just come. So I try to get as many young people as I can. And then as a coordinator, I've learned over the last 10 years, I have to watch the mentors. I mean their mental health. I'll give you an example. We had a Vietnam vet who's on sabbatical now. He's seen most of his unit wiped out, and his job and his buddy's job was to put the dead people in the platoon on helicopters. Severe PTSD. What I didn't notice was he was taking the hardest cases. Got a call from his wife once going, well, what did you do to my husband? Well, he's down in the basement. He's very quiet. I go, oh my God, well, what did I do? I went back and looked at the cases he was taking. He was taking the hardest, the infantry, the snipers, not the DUIs and I don't mean no offense against Coast Guard. I mean people in the rear. He was taking the bad ones. So I sat down with him, and he's on sabbatical now. He's going back to counseling. He can come back. It's happened before. We've had 3 or 4 people on sabbatical. Now I watch carefully, like when when this man comes back, he will not be taking the snipers and the infantry. He's going to take a few DUIs. I'm not trying to categorize things, but it's a little different than a man that's seen 50 kills. So you got to watch, make sure their health is good, and that's what I do. And we've set a few guys down, kind of watch, and the team leaders are aware of this now, so they won't give certain people certain cases. Because we call it self-care. You know, we try to help the mentors too. We're not just here for the mentees. If the mentor's having a problem, we'll sit with him. And so I think those three things: have women, get some certified people that know how to fill out claims, try to get young people. And the coordinator's job is becoming a lot harder. Not because I'm one. We finally convinced Justice for Vets to do a training session for coordinators. That's going to come out in the next 2 months. Tim and myself are part of it. Because it isn't just showing up and sending out notes. You gotta, I'm speaking twice a week. I do all the fundraising. I meet with the judge twice a week. I don't discuss cases with him, but I discuss what's happening. Like, Judge, we've got several people that have this issue and the VA's not cooperating, so I'm going to do this, this, and this. What do you think? I'm not breaking any confidentiality there, but I'm getting his opinion. It's his court. And he kind of knows it now. If I say something like, I was talking to Judge, I'm just making this up, Judge. I'm talking to Judge Dugan, and he had this case where the guy did this, this, and this, and I'm wondering what you would do in this situation. Well, Judge Russell probably knows I'm talking about a case that I'm working at right now, but I'm going to say it's from another court in a different name, just to get his perspective. I don't know if you're following me. None of us are professionals. So if someone's laughing loud, says, oh, I'm going to go home and slap her. Judge, what should I do? It happened in Philadelphia. Well, it didn't. It happened right here. And what I did was I told the cops. Oops, somebody.
All right, Mr. O'Connor, we're picking back up. Sorry about the delays.
Sure.
So you do a lot of training through Justice for Veterans.
Yes.
And whenever you go to a new court that's trying to establish itself, what do you try to relate to the other mentors?
What I tell them is they're there to be a friend to the mentor, the mentee, and an advocate. And that's all. They're not there to solve their problems. They're definitely not there to solve it. And if they try to do that, they're going to end up in trouble. Because they're not competent to be a counselor. They're not competent to be their priest or their banker or their insurance man. And to stay out of that. Because what I've seen, I've been in over 200 courts in the United States, that the mentors that take on too much usually don't really know all the answers. They shouldn't. I'll give you an example. A counselor said here once, he's a Vietnam guy, he's no longer with me for this reason. He went through counseling at the vet center on his specific problem, and it worked out in his specific situation. What he told the mentee he was with, don't listen to your counselor, I've been through this, and listen to me. I actually heard that. I was in the hallway listening. I asked him to leave. He's not a person here anymore. And I told him why. I go, you could have destroyed the 2 years that man's been going to counseling. He said, well, Jack, it worked for me. I go, the fact that it worked for you doesn't mean that's going to work for him. He disagrees with me. I don't care. He's no longer with us. I try to tell them that. They say they're not going to do it, but I know there's a fine line from being a friend and then being a counselor. So I try to tell them just to stay on the positive track. If the judge puts them in jail, go to the jail and visit them. You're there to support them. And tell them some of the things they can do to. There's a whole series of, it's called Psych Armor. It's free online videos for listening skills, PTSD, traumatic brain injury. They're all half-hour videos, and they're meant for mentors. Justice for Vets paid for it. So I tell them to go listen to these, and if they're a coordinator, I tell them to. It's hard to get all the mentors together in one place because they're volunteers, but right before court, you got 20 minutes, put it on your computer, open it up, and make the mentors listen to the one on traumatic brain injury, because very few people understand that, PTSD, listening skills. Don't be telling them your life story. This isn't about you, it's about them. Be quiet and listen. Listen. If you don't know what's going on, go to your team leader. So the biggest thing I think a mentor can do is be their friend and refer them to the expert. You are not the expert. Refer them to the expert. We have a list of over 120 referral sources. If they need food stamps, I got 5 people that'll talk to them. If they need Medicaid, PA, they're all in that book that I showed you. So instead of you going, well, here's what I did, give them the lady's phone number that's in the book for food stamps, give them your phone, and let them call up the food stamp worker. You don't do it yourself, because we learned that doesn't work. Make them do it. So that's what the 2 biggest things is be their friend and make sure you get them to the expert to help them. And if you don't know, ask your coordinator. But don't go with them. Don't try to solve the problem, because you're not going to solve it. I used to send people over to social services. I used to send them, one of the mistakes I made, send them over to the auto bureau to get their license back, send them to unemployment. And then a mentor came. I had 10 mentors at the time. 4 of them quit. And I said, what are you quitting for? They go, Jack, our stress level is so high up. Every time we come in, you're sending us somewhere. And we don't know what the hell we're doing. We don't even know where the building is. They were right. I dramatically switched then. This was about 2009. I put together a book where, here's the difference. If a guy came in and said, my wife needs Medicaid because the wife isn't eligible for VA, how do I get it? So I'd send the mentor over to Medicaid with them. That never worked. The mentor being there didn't help. What do they care if you're a mentor in a Buffalo court? Now I've contacted the Medicaid department. I have a contact person there that will be at their phone. All my contacts said they'll be at their phone from 2 to 4 on Thursdays. All we do now, that one's simple. Your wife needs Medicaid, call Sarah up, use my phone. Calls them up, she tells them how to apply for Medicaid, and life's good. The old days, I was just causing so much trouble trying to solve it ourselves. So that's the biggest change I made. I try to tell all the programs I'm in, you're not there to solve their problems. Let them solve their problems. But be an expert on where to send them. And the coordinator should try to get lists of all these resources. That's his job. Like my most recent entry on my list is Social Security Disability. That's very hard to get. 10 times harder than VA disability. The whole process is complicated and expensive. I finally got a lady that she's a veteran herself. She's in her 60s, retiring, and she's willing to take our clients pro bono. So she's the newest entry on my resource list. So if someone says, Jack, how do I get Social Security Disability? Here, call Martha up. Here's her phone number. You call her up. I'm not calling her. So I hope I'm answering your question. You be their friend, get a referral out. If you're the coordinator, start putting together a resource list from day one.
It sounds like you're building a lot of community.
Oh, you gotta. I mean, if your commissioner invites in the commissioner, your judge invites in the commissioner of social services, tell them that you need some contacts in welfare, Medicaid, food stamps, child assistance. And usually they're great to do it. Oh yeah, here, call so-and-so. That's where the mentor coordinator gets the numbers, calls those people, says your boss has agreed to this. You don't have to be in the court. Come on over if you want to look at us. But all I need you is to answer the phone. Works good.
Sounds great. Can you speak to successes in this program that you've been a part of?
When you say we, I always see successes. I'll tell you when I really woke up to what the program was about was probably 2 years into it. When I seen a guy came in the court, he was homeless. He had 3 or 4 felonies going. He order protection against him, lost his job, and what else? Unemployed, lost his car. He had a chip on his shoulder that it could have rolled over and caused damage. It was so bad. And nobody was with him. Nobody. Fast forward a year and a half, except the mentor. The mentor was with him on day one. Fast forward a year and a half, the mentor's still with him, but now there's parents are in the audience, his neighbors in the audience, son and daughter. He's no longer homeless. He's working. Order protection's been lifted. He's not back with the wife, but he can see the kids. I understood then that we did 2 things. That it took the court to do that, meaning Russell, the VA, and the mentors. And we didn't just save a veteran, we saved the family. That was like a revelation. I'm slow sometimes, seeing all those relatives in there. But there's no one part. The judge doesn't save anyone. The VA doesn't save anyone. Mentors don't save anyone. As a group, I think, and it all plays out. I talk to the VA social worker all the time. The judge talks to me. You'll see the interaction in court today. The court coordinators will call me if they need financial help, or if a Marine needs to talk to a Marine about something private. I don't care if he's in the court. They may walk in the back door with a cop. We open up the doors a half hour early because it happened once here that a young man approached the judge way too quick and the police had to restrain him. And what he was yelling out was, do I have to get arrested to get help? I never forgot that, because you got to get arrested to get help here. That's all we're about. If you're not in the court, I don't talk to you. We open up our doors a half hour early. It's called the line on the left. And if they want to talk to any mentor, I'll assign a mentor to them. The police tell these people that. You don't have to get arrested. I'll bring you up to court if you got a question. And O'Connor will give you a mentor. What I find the reason for that is these young men are, they don't know what to do when they get out, and they're too ashamed to say they have no clue. They're afraid to ask for help. But they'll ask another Marine, or they'll ask another 82nd Airborne guy. So that's worked out real well. So we talk to a lot of people now that aren't in the court. I might be jumping topics here, but...
Do you think that there's a cultural problem in the military as it relates to seeking help or talking about...
Yes, it's called the warrior mentality. It's been there since Vietnam. We're told not to complain. You have no pain. If you see something bad, too bad. Embrace the suck. That's exactly what that sergeant will tell you, and he'll step in your face doing it. I mean, really step in your face. In boot camp, put his foot right in your head. Shut up, do your job, and that's it. Don't complain. It's called a warrior ethos, and it's ingrained in soldiers from World War I to now. And our biggest problem is to get that young man to stop it and admit he's got mental health issues, because the Army has told him not to admit that. Suck it up. Get over it. It don't work. So we all know that. And when we train, we talk about the warrior ethos to the mentors, the coordinators, and I talk to every new person that comes in here. And that's when I tell them, son, I'm here just to talk to you. You don't want to talk to me, that's fine. What you tell me will stay between us. I was a Nam. I understand. I was afraid to talk to people, but if you feel like letting it out, we won't say a word. You know, it's between me and you. We're here to help you. But it's called the warrior ethos. And the Army and the Navy and the Marines and the Air Force have taught, especially the Marines and the Army, have taught these young men, do not complain, do not ask for help. Do it yourself. You're a man. It's bullshit. You're hurting because of what you've seen. You need help. So yeah, we talk a lot about the warrior ethos. We try to let the young people know this was ingrained in you. It's not your fault. But get over it. Ask us for help, man. Ask for help. Nobody's going to come back at you. And it takes us about 6 to 8 months to get through them in an 18-month program. Usually by month 8, they're talking to us.
I'm willing to bet that Judge Russell and you had doubters in the beginning.
Oh,
still have doubters.
Yeah. No one accepted. I don't know what he told you. No one accepted this court here. Cops thought it was a get-out-of-jail card. There's 14 judges in this building. Nobody was referring cases to them. This was a get-out-of-jail card. What do you need another court for? You got your mental health court. What is this? Now every judge in this place refers every single veteran to them. The problem is, can we take them all? So there were doubters all over the country.
How did you convince?
We didn't. I think the success of the program did. I remember when the biggest thing that helped us out was the New York Times did an editorial back when it was a very hard time for us. Nobody was accepting us. The Times did this big article, and they're right next to the Office of Court Administration in New York, saying what a wonderful thing this was. And the next day, NPR did a whole day on Buffalo Veterans Court. All of a sudden, people started calling and people got interested. So those two things to me was the swing point back in 2009 maybe. People started, because we didn't praise ourselves. He never asked for an interview. Judge Russell doesn't call the press. We don't publicize anything. But once the word got out, the recidivism rates got out, the cops started to say, holy shit, I'm not seeing this guy arrested all the time. What the hell's going on here? He's up in Veterans Court. You'll see police come in now just to sit and watch our court. They were all doubters. the police now, the sheriffs, when they arrest people in Buffalo, not only do I arrest them, they give them my card. It says on a Buffalo Veterans Court. So if they call me, I tell them how to get into the court. So that took 10 years, but it's happening now. So the court, I guess my point is, wasn't accepted back in 2009. It's totally accepted now.
Sure.
The judges, all Hamburg, all the little towns around us, there's no more arguing with them to try to get a vet sent here. They're sent immediately to us. The agreement is they don't lose authority. No one's taking your case away. We're like a probation. They got a year and a half to get through Veterans Court. If they do, certain agreements are fulfilled.
At the minimum, it's a year and a half.
Yeah, no, I've seen some reservists do it in a year. Because, if you can't carry a gun, you can't be in the reserves. So if you get a felony, you're out.
Right.
That could be simple drug use. So the reservists are the easiest ones. They're out of here in 12 months.
What do you think are the most common charges?
Fighting, violence, Chippewa, people call somebody name, PTSD, they explode when they get out. I can't get a job, life isn't the same. Drugs come into it big time, fighting, leaving their families, then all shit breaks loose. But violence, I'd say bar fights, big time, drug use, selling, using. Yep, well, because of their experiences, once they clean up, it all stops.
For the public who might not be aware that veteran court even exists, what would you want them to know about the problems veterans face after military service?
I think they should go to a couple of websites. Just go to justiceforvets.org, all one word, or my website's got stories in there, videos. It's buffaloveteranstreatmentcourt.org. It's not a promotion or nothing. It actually tells you what the court is, what we do, lists the courts all over the country. Do some research ads. They're all over the place, yeah. You get videos. It's a very simple thing. It's a treatment court for veterans, and it works.
I know we're running low on time, so I'll ask this one before I ask my final question, and that is there anything throughout this interview that you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about?
No, I stuck half the things in I just threw stuff out that had nothing to do with the topic. No, I've got it all in.
All right, thank you. Whenever history is written, what do you want it to say about you?
Oh, that not just me, the Vietnam vets, I'm very similar to all of them. We're finally giving back. We're finally giving back. For years we couldn't because people hated us. Now we can.
And you're giving it back to these other veterans.
Love it. I know of all their stories out there today. You'll see me out there, every one of them. And I tell them I'm no better or worse. We're the same people.
Mr. O'Connor, I want to thank you not only for your service to your country, but to your community.
Yep, thank you.
For helping other veterans deal with issues that maybe you face and maybe some you didn't face. But I also want to thank you for sharing your story with the project and for inviting me here and welcoming me.
I think what you're doing is great, yeah.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.